Namaste, 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 namaste. Okay, we're gonna dive into it today, guys. I'm just trying to fix my microphone here because where I'm sitting at in my house, I'm a little bit farther away from the table because I really wanted to do this tiger background. The tiger is my spirit animal and it is my Chinese astrology. I am a tiger. I was born in 1986. So I just love this background. I love to use it when I can. And I just got this nice little black couch that I can use for filming as well. So yeah, I'm just excited to kind of switch up my backgrounds a little bit. So that's why I'm sitting here today, besides my other filming area, which is like my desk area. But yeah, I have this area over here that I do for filming as well. But yeah, so I just wanted to do the tiger background. I feel like I'm going to have to be somewhat ferocious today for this update. There's a lot that we're going to talk about in this one. It's pretty spicy. I have, pictures and things to show you guys. I'm going to be pulling up my scribbles maps as well to show you the Ark of the Covenant cosmic grid. Because we're going to kind of extend off of that grid today. So I just want to go ahead. I'll start with my intro. I just want to say thank you, Galactic family. Welcome back to my channel, IndigoAngel. If you're new, come on into this cosmic multidimensionality. I hope that you enjoy the galactic content here on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to smash that notifications bell so you can continue to receive my messages. And also, if you're returning, don't forget to like this video, comment on this video, and share this video so others can find out about my work. And yeah, and as always, guys, thank you so much for your continued love and support of my channel and just cosmic blessings to everybody. So now today we are going to dive a little bit deeper into another location that I have been seeing and being drawn to be another Anunnaki Stargate. As we are still in the thick of the Orion season. So why not, guys? Why not just keep digging in the Stargate of Aden, just because so much more is being revealed here. It's kind of like Pandora's box, which literally means the source of endless complications or endless findings. And so it's really almost like it's like I'm looking through a Stargate kaleidoscope and I'm getting fragmented pieces of things that I never knew existed. Well, I knew that these things existed, but I didn't see the underlying encryptions behind them. And now a lot of that's starting to come up. So I am definitely, just finding more and more here. This whole area is like a treasure chest of Nuberian truth. And I'll show you guys the area that I'm talking about on my scribbles map. Okay, so this is my Ark of the Covenant grid. You've seen that on my other updates that I've done recently. I've been talking about this for a while now. And I've talked a lot about the Gulf of Aden. So this is the Gulf of Aden here. And essentially it's the underwater Stargate running Project Blackwater. It's also running coalitions with secret space programs and travel operations of running Orion Nibiru Royals, possibly to and from the Ark of the Covenant, which is located here in Ethiopia, to and from the technology facilities in the Sinai Peninsula. So the Sinai Peninsula, particularly Saudi Arabia, is still very active. And it's interesting because I did get asked on John Claude's channel when I was last on, what's there? And I did reference Zecharia Sitchin, just how that the Anunnaki spaceports have known to be there. A lot of people discredit Zecharia Sitchin, which is semi-frustrating to me, considering that I do feel that Zecharia Sitchin himself was a percentage of Anunnaki. And so I do feel that the translation of his perception of the Sumerian clay tablets may have been altered to somewhat of his human agendas. But I mean, I'm just grateful that somebody has actually dissected the cuneiform Sumerian clay tablets. And like I said before, I'm just waiting for a feminine philosopher to step up and do it, because here I am going to be today piecing together some of my gnosis and some of my knowing on this. But it would be so interesting if I could get my own hands on it and really try to make out for myself what all of this actually means. So we've yet to see a female scholar actually give a perception or opinion on the Sumerian clay tablets. That's all I'm saying. And so, and I think the reason why a lot of people knock Zecharia Sitchin is because a lot of people just genuinely haven't taken the time to read the books. They're very time consuming. They're somewhat difficult to read through. They take a very long time to get through one book. And I think people just go off of other people's opinion on it. So that's my personal opinion. I feel that a lot of the people that shame it haven't even read it themselves. And so you can take that for how you want to take it. But that's really genuinely how I feel about it. Because if you ask some of these people that say these things, and then ask them specifics about the books, they don't really even know. So it's just interesting to me how that happens, guys. But essentially where I was going with this is the travel operations of the Orion Nibiros, coming in and out of this Gulf of Aden here, okay, with this Orion Stargate here, Ark of the Covenant here, transport systems coming through into the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, and also down into Jordan and Israel and Saudi Arabia. So a lot's kind of happening here. This is a intense galactic highway, Orion Galactic Highway, with a lot of to and from technologies that are coming in and out from the Sinai Peninsula, Saudi Arabia, the Mountain of Moses, the original lands of the Anunnaki. And so, and also the Temple Mount, the Anunnaki Stargate, which I'm seeing now may just be a smoke screen. Okay, so I've talked a lot about the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, this one here, being a smoke screen for the main Anunnaki Stargate. So we're going to kind of dive into that in this update. The Anunnaki Stargate that I'm going to reveal to you guys today, I feel that this actually might be the real core generating Stargate that I have not yet mentioned in any of my other videos. But essentially, I am starting to see how and why just this entire Red Sea is just so hypercharged energetically. Nowhere like it, literally in the entire world. So this Stargate that I want to talk to you guys about, that I do feel may be the true Anunnaki Stargate. Yes, the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, there's a lot going on there. It could be directly transmitting quantum inverted funnels to the third planetary Stargate location, the Bermuda Triangle, the Atlantean system, Sarasota, Florida, also to Zion, China as well. All of these Stargates here that would be activating today would be transmitting pretty much to all Stargates that are on that 30-degree north horizontal ley line that essentially runs in a horizontal line straight through this or straight through Giza. So about right here. So it cuts across all the way around, across India, through Africa, and over into the Bermuda Triangle. I think I have this one here. Is this one the Bermuda? Yep. I don't have everything charted on this as of now, but because I chart them to localize certain information that I'm trying to explain, essentially. But this Stargate that I am talking about with you guys today is this one right here. This is the Kaaba. Okay, so the Kaaba is the cube. I hope my face is still in here with you guys. It happens sometimes that I lose my face, but I need it in the picture. Okay, so the Kaaba is the cube. This is in Mecca in Saudi Arabia. And you may be saying, how can this be a Stargate? Well, I say it's a Stargate because, for one, its core foundation is based with iridium. Okay, iridium is a supreme metal in platinum families. Let me go ahead and zoom in. Okay, so this location here, but I have some pictures of the Kaaba, so I'll just pull them up for you guys. Okay, so this is the Kaaba here. Essentially, it's the base of it is based with iridium, or the foundation is based with iridium. And iridium is a supreme metal in platinum families. It's a metal found in meteorites, and it is highly extraterrestrial, and it's designed to open gateways between 3D and 13D spectrums and beyond. And you can actually ingest this stuff, this metal, for higher consciousness, which I did not know until the other day. You can purchase it in liquid form. It said if you consume it, your lucid dreams are 100 times more vivid. You're actually supposed to take it at night before you go to sleep. And it's said to be stronger than consuming white liquid gold. So I will leave links in the descriptions to some of the places you can actually purchase like a colloidal iridium. I have not done this myself, guys. I am tempted to try it though. So just know that I'm not a doctor. And I'm not prescribing this to anyone. If you chose to do something like this, it would be, at your own risk, highly self-experimental. But it is considered a superconductor of the cosmos. And it's interesting, I did over the last month, I kept hearing the word iridium. I think I even said this to one of the gals on my Patreon. We were talking about iridium. It had came up. And so it's been coming up in my mind over and over. And I finally stopped and looked deeper into it. I'll even see if I can find, so liquid colloidal iridium. Okay, yeah, so here it is. Like, you can purchase it. Okay, so it's a nanoparticle colloidal iridium, and mineral supplement has highest particle surface area for maximum effectiveness. And it's one of the 6 platinum group elements, is one of the rarest elements found on Earth. And there's a lot of biological values of iridium. So, I mean, I'm not going to read all of this to you guys, but I just wanted to show you that this is the metal that is built underneath the black cube. Okay, and this metal sits smack dab in the center of the periodic table as well. Okay, so we know that spiritually, if anything is in the middle, you know that it's of spiritual importance. And our Anunnaki forefathers, and I say our Anunnaki forefathers because the majority of the collective is a percentage of Anunnaki, they were divine alchemists, and they essentially gifted humanity with the recipes of these elixirs that are long forgotten. Even by the most evolved modern spiritualists, they would have had to, start tuning in or tapping into the philosopher's stone and actually getting to the alchemist aspects of alchemy. There's a difference. See, a lot of people say when they hear alchemy, they think, oh, I'm just transmuting. No, there's real alchemists that actually have like chemistry labs, and they're actually really working with the alchemical compounds, elements, and all of the stuff in the periodic table, and they're being real like scientific alchemists. And this is what even Moses himself was. And so it's said that Moses was full of white liquid gold as he wrote the commandments, as he wrote scriptures that are in the Bible. Okay, so how many people that put the Bible together were actually taking and consuming metals? And I'm kind of seeing that maybe they were on more than just white liquid gold. Maybe the huff and the puff wasn't just over Ormus, while they secretly crafted and fine-tuned all of the spiritual literatures, that they may have been ingesting the powers of platinum metals, which are considered iridescent objects of cosmic power. And you can actually see the atomic breakdown of this metal in the Occult Chemistry book of Charles W. Leadbetter. And so I'm just going to show you guys that really quick. So I got my book out. If any of you have this book, I'll put it in the description, or get this book. It's a really good book to have because there's not a lot of authors or philosophers or scientists that have actually tapped into the spiritual meanings of chemistry itself. And so this is kind of one person trying to do that, which I find it very fascinating. There's not an abundance of specific spiritual information pertaining to the atomic state of these chemicals, but essentially this is what iridium looks like in an atomic state. So it's kind of like a temple. And it's interesting because these are some of the other metals in its family. And this is what it looks like basically under a microscope. But essentially, iridium is almost completely identical to platinum. Platinum just has more smaller dots inside the spheres. And that's about it. But other than that, they are about identical in an atomic form, which is very interesting to notate that they are that similar. But essentially, yeah, guys, so, and not just because the Kaaba is based with iridium that I say it's a Stargate, I also say this is a Stargate because this is the most sacred site in Islam, the house of God to Allah, with the most active collective reinforcement and participation of spiritual quantum technologies that are taking place more than anywhere else on the planet. Essentially, where every face of the Black Rock is prayed to by 1 billion plus Muslims 5 times a day, where every mosque globally built in the timelines after the Al-Aqsa Mosque, because the Al-Aqsa Mosque was built prior to the coming of Muhammad. Okay, so there were temples that were built that actually point in a different direction. Okay, so I'm just going to show you guys the picture really quick. So I'm going to share my screen again. I do believe this is during one of their celebrations, but you can see how many devout Muslims are praying to the Kaaba. Like this goes very, very far. I believe it's called the Hajj. They have to go there like it's a pilgrimage like once in their lifetime, and they have to actually go and do this ceremony that's about like, it's kind of like a scavenger hunt of like all the different things that they have to do. They have to go and they have to pray around the black cube, the black rock, the black dome, whatever we're going to call it, Kaaba. And then they have to circle it 7 times anti-clockwise. They have to go and walk between 2 rocks twice back and forth. Then they have to go and pray at a mountain. And then they have to go stone Satan, like literally go to these locations where they're like Satan stoning stations, and they have like 21 stones, and they have to just throw rocks at this like replica of what Satan would sound like. I guess there's like noise coming from it, and Satan is just like growling out of it. And they have to throw rocks at this. And then after they complete all of these tasks, then they have to come back to this and then circle it again 7 more times anti-clockwise. Like I said, there are mosques that were built way before. And I want to take that back because I don't know for sure, because I'm not an expert on this stuff, but I have been studying. But there are mosques that were built prior to the foundation of Islam. And so these mosques are all point in a directional way. So direction, the way that mosques were pointed in the direction in which you pray is very, very important in Islam, essentially. So where every mosque globally built in the timelines after the Al-Aqsa mosque construction faces the Kaaba directionally. So this is hundreds of thousands of mosques that all directionally face the Kaaba. So this is why billions of Muslims could be praying to the Kaaba 5 times a day, is because it doesn't matter where in the world that they are. If they're in one of their mosques, they're in a certain wall, they're pointed towards the Kaaba. Okay. And so all prayers are sent in this direction. And so you can imagine that force or that quantum energy of spiritual prayer coming into one centralized location from all over the world 5 times a day. And then even the mosques that are sitting on top of those desecrated Hindu temples in India, those are all pointing towards Kaaba as well. So we're going to get into talking about the desecrated temples in India, because this all ties into each other essentially. But essentially all of the mosques built prior to the Al-Aqsa mosques, these original mosques actually face towards the ancient city of Petra, okay, which is supposedly the true birthplace of Muhammad. And so I guess a lot of Muslims don't really even know this. I was watching some archaeological type documentaries and stuff where there's been profound research and study that have gone into this, and they're using satellites to actually study this stuff, because now that we're in the time of technology and the time of satellites, it's very easily, we're able to globally scan directions, ley lines, and all of the things that maybe wouldn't have been able to map out and navigate before, but now we can using satellite technology. So I will leave a link in the description to that video that I watched, so you could watch that too if you want to vet out this information yourself, which I highly encourage that you do. Essentially, you can see the black cube here, and also what the geometry is that they're running here. So they're running geometry here that is called squaring the circle. It's where there's a square inside of a circle, and the construction of this geometry really makes it almost impossible in being transcendental, because any way you do the math on the archaeology, it cannot be constructed in a finite number, and it does not follow the golden ratio. So its properties, when you have geometries like this, it's supposed to create irrationality and also continued fraction, okay? Which is interesting to notate here. As we dive deeper into this update, we're going to be discussing its chain links to the Saturn moon matrix, how the original idol worshipped at the black cube was actually Hubal, which is the god of the moon. So that's very interesting. This all ties into each other. We're going to kind of get into that later in this update, but that continued fraction that's happening on a primal level, a geometric level, that's what's running into the landmass. That's what's being sent into this hypercharged Stargate area here, into the Red Sea. Okay. Is this fractioned, irrational, static electricity, but it's actually electromagnetic, and it's mostly magnetic actually because of the anti-clockwise rotations that they're doing. So it's really sending fractures in a downward spiral through collective technologies of creating a swarm, or it's like a constant state of a swarm, or like a hive type, like a beehive. Like when a beehive gets all stirred up and you have all this buzzing and you can just feel this like nest of swirling plasma. This is what this cube is essentially. Okay. But it was originally built by Abraham himself and the firstborn son Ishmael, who was the forefather to Adnan, who was the forefather to Muhammad, Islam's prophet. So think about that. Abraham's firstborn son was the forefather to the first Abrahamic religion, Islam. And that in itself holds weight, because you know what comes energetically with being the firstborn son. There is a different agenda of dynastic power and responsibility that is placed on the firstborn son, especially if the Ishmaels are carrying the highest percentage of Egalian Anunnaki DNA. Okay, and I kept thinking, why do Muslims feel so entitled to places like the Temple Mount, to the Giza pyramids? Well, it's encoded in their first descendancy of the infamous biblical staples in history. And so there's why there's an entitlement here. That's why they feel entitled, and no one can really do anything about it, because they are the firstborn sons of Abraham. Okay, so today Islam is the second largest religion in the world. There are 1.8 billion people that practice this, and it makes up 24% of the world population. Shia Muslims are about 10 to 13% of this in Iran, Pakistan, India, and Iraq. And this Shia Muslims, this is the extremists and the ones that are more violent in their practice. And then the Sunni Muslims are 87 to 90% of the global population of that 1.8 billion. Worldwide. So they're worldwide, they're in every country to some degree. So it's interesting to notate, though, that the Shia Muslims are what's in India. There are, of course, all different types of Muslims in India, the Sunni and the Shia, but there is that Shia presence there. Okay, so this kind of brings us into the massive temple desecration that India has been under since the medieval Muslim conquest of the Indian subcontinent. Okay, so this has been coming up. It's been coming up for a while. This is not new news. You may not have heard about this, but essentially the temples in India have been being taken down, attacked, desecrated. And this has been going on essentially since the beginning of the 8th century AD up until current days. And I just watched a news update in India because I kind of start trying to figure out what's going on like in the local sphere of information, so to speak. And just recently there were 3 goddess Sita temples that were destroyed. And it just breaks my heart so much, you guys, because I'm very connected to Lakshmi. I have a goddess Lakshmi statue. I'll actually show you guys because I just... Okay, so I wanted to show you guys my Lakshmi goddess statue. And it's so interesting. So when I was in Egypt, I've never worked with Lakshmi. I've always been very called to lots of different Hindu goddesses. I've worked with lots of them. I do personally believe in idol worship. Do I worship idols like celebrities and people like this? No, but in terms of spiritual deities, yes, I would say that I do worship pantheons of certain ancestors that I feel are a part of my Akashic records. And so I'm very close to Lakshmi. And it wasn't until I went to Egypt. I mean, I've never connected with this goddess. I knew about her, but it wasn't on the forefront of my mind. And then I just had this dream about her in golden light. And she just kept singing her name in praise as I was waking up. And so I woke up that morning and I was like, Lakshmi came to me in a dream last night. And so it's just all of this temple desecration in India breaks my heart so much because goddess Sita is Lakshmi's avatar. And so as I'm watching the news anchors in India talk about the devastation of these temples of goddess Sita, I just literally felt the tearing down of the temple in my stomach and just how sickening this really is. They say over 60,000 temples have been demolished under the Muslim rule. And these are attacks that are not just on the temples, but in the ancient timelines, it would be the Muslim kings. I think Mongol was one of the dynasties. And you guys can always correct me in the comments if I'm not getting things right. But essentially, he would come and he would ransack the temples for jewels and gold. And they would just take everything from the temples before they would desecrate it, essentially. And they would take everything that the temples had to offer. They would slaughter the villages, sometimes up to and over 50,000 people at one time. And then they would tear down the temples and then they would build a mosque on top of it. And so they're not only trying to destroy them, but then it's kind of like an extra like piss on it because they're also then building their mosque on top of it. And a lot of these mosques or a lot of these temples that they convert, it's like still clearly you can see that it was still like a Hindu temple on some level. They just basically like take it over. Because they're trying to convert everybody to their religion through brutality, or certain aspects of Islam is doing this through brutality. And I'm not saying that all Islams are brutal. Like I absolutely love cultural diversity. But it is just definitely very sad to hear about what's happening. This is a form of ethnic cleansing. And I understand that this has been going on worldwide through several other civilizations and cultures throughout history. Essentially, you know, England and the United Kingdom and all of these things that have happened. But they say that this temple ransacking, this essentially is the bloodiest story ever to exist in history, period. The amount of Hindus and people in India that have been slaughtered and murdered over this temple desecration is the largest numbers that they've ever probably seen in history. So the extreme severity is beyond any other country's record keeping of ethnic cleansing. So that's why I knew I had to bring this up in this update today. I just realized this is really, at the end of the day, this is really over the killing of idols. So this is monotheism versus polytheistic beliefs, which is one God versus multiple gods. And that belief, essentially Islam, and they just don't like idols because the truth is, guys, idols essentially give people secret, hidden spiritual immunity. Kind of like the game of Survivor. If anyone here has watched Survival, how they get those hidden immunity idols, that's kind of how idols actually work on the spiritual level. Like if you're to worship an idol and you're to actually set offerings out to an idol, they reciprocate by bringing you gifts. They reciprocate by bringing you miracles or strength or qualities that you're searching for, that you need, that maybe you didn't have or possess before. And so they know this. They know that these idols are spiritual immunity. And so they attack the most tangible form of that immunity, and that is the temple of the idol itself. And so this is the exact act on earth on a spiritual level. These are the acts, the tangible acts that are the parallel of the angelic wars, the seraphim versus the Elohim. Okay, so we think that these choirs are not in some sort of distress, but essentially the hijacking of the seraphim identity was taken by the Aquila nations. Okay, these specific acts are the warfare between Enki and Enlil. These specific acts are still the war between the brotherhood. It's kind of more like a tragedy on the seraphim aspect. Like if you are to tune into this energy and get to know these angels and get to know this, I mean, you're endowed and embodied with its spiritual wisdom, its strength, but at the same time, there is all of this hijacking and all of this underlying corrupted shit that's even playing out on the spiritual level. Okay, so I'm not saying that harmonious, coexisting, and peaceful vibes are not playing out between the exchanges of the people here in these countries, but the temple desecration is something that may be being ignored and swept under the rug. People aren't really listening. It's not really being cared for globally and worldwide. And we think we're so evolved and thinking that ethnic cleansing is still not taking place on this earth when it clearly is still taking place in India. And so this is the real underlying problem in India. I believe the Guru Sadhguru has spoken about this several times. I've watched his videos come across and he has spoken about this. So I will leave more links on this in the description of the articles so you can read more about this. But essentially, guys, we're going to go back to Abraham here. I'm going to kind of share my map with you guys again. So I'm kind of serious today. I honestly haven't been feeling very well the last few days. Just my energy has dropped. And I feel so tired. It's almost like my immune system. I need spiritual immunity. My muscles feel really sore. I feel really tired. So it's just, I'm kind of pushing myself today to bring this forward because while I haven't been feeling good, I've been working on this update. So if I seem a little off, I apologize. That's probably why. But essentially back to Abraham. So Abraham, he essentially has been described as representing, but essentially Abraham has been described as representing primordial man in universal surrender to the divine reality before its fragmentation into religious separation from each other by differences in form occurred. But the secret of Abraham was that he was an Enlil priest. He was an Enlilite. Okay. So got my map here. I'm going to go somewhere with the map in just a second. The three Abrahamic religions descended under the Aquila template. Okay, they descended from one half of the brethren, just as I was going before with the brethren warfare, right? In Greek mythology, Enlil, he was equivalent to Zeus. Okay, so with Aquila, okay, the bird that carried the lightning bolt. So this is where this comes in. Enlil, he was represented in the form of an eagle, while Enki was represented in the form of a serpent. So I have always felt intuitively that Enki either went to birth the nations of India or a form of Enki went to birth the nations of India, where the ancient original serpent cults dwelt. Okay, the original 7 ancient races of Lemuria before that land bridge sunk. Or somehow, some way, he descended genetically from deep southern ancient India, culture from the heavens. Okay, given his primordial essence, may in fact have been Shiva. So I did talk about this in a cosmic grid update that I did called the Anunnaki, Lemuria, and HYDRA. I believe that's what it's called. It's been a while, but I will leave that link in the description. I highly suggest going and watching this video because I really dive into this. I dive into how the fact that the Vedic text predate the Sumerian clay tablets. So Indus Valley is said to predate Sumerian civilization by 2,500 years. Now, this is a huge controversial thing. So just by me saying that, I know some people are probably going to disagree with that, and that's totally fine. It still doesn't change my opinion on it because of everything that I've researched and studied, that I really do genuinely feel that the Vedic texts do predate the Sumerian texts and civilization. But essentially, Enki's cult was, according to literature, right, was originally in Mesopotamia, that the books say, but somehow, some way, his essence was Anunnaki, which means serpent. And you can look this up. You could just Google search it, was Enki a serpent? I mean, you're going to get all kinds of stuff. And you're going to see that his primordial form was as a serpent. Okay, so Enki also, though, he also embodied the square of Pegasi. Okay, so he was hybridized, right? So he's not only Nibirian, but just like many of us, star seeds and us Umpus are able to transmit with multiple star systems. Okay, he was navigating and working with coalitions with other systems as well. So he quickly may have spread throughout the lands, given that he had Pegasan technology and cosmology. Because what the Pegasans bring here is they bring the ability and the technology to explore and quickly expand into new territory on the Earth, and also in terms of interplanetary exploration and exoplanets, essentially the Nexus systems, which is another cosmic grid update that I did. Links in the description for everything, guys, for you to check out. But essentially, I feel that Enlil birthed the nations of Saudi Arabia. And if you just follow each country's pagan polytheistic gods and idols, you can actually see how their encryption rings through the idols. Because every civilization prior to becoming ordained and monotheistic and subjugated to only the worship of one God, essentially, you can see, though, prior to that, that their pagan gods are the roots or the supporting pieces that let you know where they were transmitting from on a planetary level. The fact that the original idol of the Kaaba was Hubal just means that that is the underlying moon frequency there, that ties into the Saturn moon matrix as well, that I'll get into almost getting closer to it. But so you just follow through the idols, the temples, and the mosquitoes in which their staples were tied into the fabric. And I'm going to start calling mosques mosquitoes. There's actually like an Indian story about the elephant and the mosquito, and how we pay so much attention to these big things, but you don't see the smaller type like villain, or the smaller type threat, because it's so little. So there's like actually an elephant and a mosquito story. So it kind of reminds me of the story between India and between Islam, essentially. You should check it out. Links in the description. I'll leave it for you guys. Now, I say Saudi Arabia and not Iraq. So a lot of people, when they think about the ancient Sumerian story, they think about Iraq. Like, ancient Sumeria was modern Iraq. And I say this for a couple reasons. For one, the story of Adam and Eve. Okay, so the Kaaba here, as I have my map up. Okay, so the Kaaba, essentially, this goes back to Adam. So when he was banished from the Garden of Eden, he was filled with sin. He was given a black stone to erase his sin and allow him entrance back into heaven. So this is what Islam believes. This ties the black cube into the original creation story. Okay, Saudi Arabia also goes into the true origins of the Muslims, because all mosques predating the Al-Aqsa Mosque originally point to the ancient city of Petra. Petra may have been the original founding place of Muhammad, but essentially it goes into Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia also would be where the Anunnaki originally landed in their ships. And all of this also is going down in the time that Mecca and also Medina were becoming very, very popular cities for pre-ancient Muslims. So was the original sin in Saudi Arabia? I just asked you that question. I recently read a new book called The Universe from Anunnaki to Islam. Are they connected? It's God Chronicles Part 1. I don't remember the author to this book, but I'll write it in the description. Essentially, this is where this scholar and this author states that the Quran is the closest religious text that is in agreement to Sumerian texts. Okay, so I just find it all very interesting. It's all very interconnected. And Muhammad, you know, he was the messenger, he was the prophet in Islam. And that's a very popular name over there, by the way, guys. When you go to the Middle East, essentially almost every other man's name is Muhammad. And I know this because I was honestly hit on by several of them. They were just very openly straightforward, like on the streets. I mean, I think here in the States, it's just not as open, you know, but there it's just like everyone's kind of outwardly approaching you, outwardly confessing their desire to court you. And they would just say like the most outrageous things to try to get your attention. But essentially, the Mohammeds, this is the Mohammedan soul collective egregore that is a part of this ancestral genetic descendancy that came recruit by force in a lot of ways. They are essentially hybridized Syrian, Anunnaki, Draco, and Aquilan. And with the Aquila aspect of it, the eagle is the primary badge that they wear in their military and everything that they essentially implement with this. And so you would never know that it's Anunnaki, Draco, and Syrian under the Aquilan badge, but it is. And they operate globally. The most current running centralized intelligences that have access to the Atlantean crystal generators, and like I said earlier, those inverted quantum funnels into the first dimensional planetary fields. If you've seen my most recent update, I talk about this. They stronghold the Earth's top 3 most powerful stargates on the Earth, and they have Earth's race morphogenetic field technology, and they have dominant and architectural landmass control over houses of idols. Okay, so they are the force of eradication of this. And the gates here at Kaaba, they are running multiple intentful, strategic, directional operating systems. Remember the direction of prayer being so important. The only other people that really got this right were the Hindus. I'm going to explain that to you. But these are underlying tactics of spiritual global dominance on the earth. But primarily the technology here at Kaaba, it also follows that counterclockwise spin. So could you just imagine, guys, billions of Muslims rotating in an anti-clockwise spin around the Kaaba? Can you imagine the amount of quantum that is being generated into the landmass at that static electricity, at that non-alignment of the golden ratio? It's a fraction in the Earth's grids. Okay, this is what powers that Saturn chain moon matrix. It's really interesting that the primary technology here also does follow that counterclockwise spin of the gate, just like the 18 counterclockwise gates at the Temple Mount. Because, like I said, guys, this is thousands and millions of Muslims that are circling this cube 7 times in a counter anti-clockwise motion. Can you imagine the immensity of this? This is massive, active, collective, generated quantum. These are generating systems to core functionalities of the Achelan grid with high, hive, polymorphic collective technologies to aim that quantum into what's called the Great Circle, or the inner Earth sphere, or the race morphogenetic field of the planet. This inner Earth sphere is the form holding thumbprint of the planet. Okay, so that is comprised of supreme periodic alchemistry and templates of consciousness light and microcosmic identity that serves what consciousness will manifest on this planet in collective reality fields. This is how this is being so chained and anchored here. That's why it's so important to know who and what is controlling the most powerful stargates on Earth to the highest percentage on Earth. It's so important to know this, because this is really who is controlling the consciousness of the Earth. This stargate may in fact be one of the most powerful stargates on Earth besides the Temple Mount in Giza, Egypt. But even more than that, the Temple Mount in Giza, Egypt, like I said before, may just be for show. That the Kaaba, okay, the Kaaba is the real core generator here. The Kaaba Stargate also is the Earth's planetary chain link to the Saturn moon matrix, right? So what is that doing? That is actually holding the original sin of Adam. And every stone that has ever been casted at Satan himself, it is held here at the Kaaba, which this is what is supposed to be responsible for the implants like the crucifixion implants and collective wounds and mind control, with damages done on the vertical ley lines and meridians on the planet because of this. Okay, so this is what's damaging. This is what's causing that fraction and irrationability globally. Irrationability globally. The black cube stamp of the earth that came from Abraham himself, the Enlilites. Okay, so this doesn't necessarily mean like all of this is Abraham's fault. No, he was just a chink in the chain. Okay, so this Kaaba here, this may not, I read somewhere that this, the original design, I believe I read it was originally in a D shape. But at the time of Muhammad, the idol, or should I say the prophet, because here's the thing, every prophet could essentially be an idol. And I honestly predict that at some point in time, that prophets will be banned in the same way that idols were in the future as consciousness evolves on this earth, because there is an interconnecting link into all of it. Okay, but essentially prophet, Muhammad changed it. Okay, changing something doesn't extinguish its core energy in which something was built. The Kaaba was originally built to an idol. Okay, the original idol of the Kaaba was a god named Hubal, and this was the god of the moon. Okay, so hence further interconnects my gnosis of the Saturn moon matrix. And it's paradoxical, kind of ignorant in the sense that, so why desecrate these Hindu temples? Okay, because you'll never truly change its fundamental spiritual immunity. Okay, so if you need to catch up on intel, I suggest you watch my most recent cosmic grid update, my most recent remote view at the Temple Mount, because I really go into the Temple Mount and more of this information that I'm talking about today on this update. And yeah, guys, so I hope that you enjoyed this update today. I am going to be doing more on this. I'm hoping to put more together on the desecration of the temples in India, possibly do a video about this on Jean-Claude's channel coming up, I believe, on the 10th of this week coming up. And because I did chart it when I go back to my map here. Oh, I'm still on my map. I did chart it. These are just some of the Hindu temples that have been desecrated. A lot of these temples were to Shiva or to Lord Ganesh. essentially. So these are just some that have been desecrated, but I mean, there is over 600,000 temples that have been desecrated and hundreds of thousands of more. I mean, if you just pull up maps of temples in India, you can see, and I did want to chart these, by the way, but it would just take me forever. So, I mean, you can see here, guys, like there is just an immense amount of temples, particularly in the tip of southern India. A lot of the desecration has been in the northern province area of India. And I do believe that's probably where most of the Shia Muslims are essentially. But yeah, guys, so this is my update for today. And I just love you guys so much. I've been so busy. I apologize for not getting content out faster on my channel. I've just had so much going on. I did just spend the last few days creating a video for a GoFundMe that I'm doing for my Starseed Activator line. So I will leave links in the description if you want to go check out this video. I did use the same background, my tiger background for this video. But I really go into my Starseed Activator line and just let you guys know everything that's going on, what I need the money for. I'm not going to promote my GoFundMe too much. I think I'm just going to remind people about it maybe at the end of my videos, include it in my email news campaigns. I did send it out to my Patreon. So Patrons, thank you so much for some of you who donated. So I really appreciate that. And yeah, I just want to say also, I also am available for services. So you can find everything on my website, IndigoAngel222.com, where I have JCL removal, advanced avatar master practices session, and also Starseed origin readings. So I just want to thank you so much for watching my update today. And I hope you have a beautiful everything.